Hi, welcome back to McClatchy Maths. My name is Natalie McClatchy and today we are continuing our video series on how to write a problem-solving modelling task under the 2025 Queensland syllabus. And we are looking at a new part of the Instrument-Specific Marking Guide, the ISMG, on efficient use of technology. Now, before we get started, I want to tell you a little bit more about how you can engage further with us here at the channel. There's lots of different ways you could like and subscribe. You could hit that little heart button and say thanks and donate $2 to the running of the channel. You could also tell somebody, why not add it to your class OneNote, or share the video with some friends, or even follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. It's a great way to stay up to date with news and changes to the channel. Okay, well, let's get straight into looking at the new ISMG, and our focus today is on efficient use of technology, which is in that top band of performance descriptors. Now, if we don't hit that band, the next place that we go is down to use of technology. So you'll see that this word efficient is the one that is the key for being able to get into the 6 to 7 performance range. If there's no evidence of efficiency, we move down to use of technology. And then if we do something very superficial under the old syllabus, it's now called simplistic use of technology. Under this syllabus, we only hit in the 2 to 3 range. And then there is the inappropriate use down the bottom, which means we haven't used the right technology at all, and it's in the 1 range for performance. Okay, let's get straight in to talking about the differences between the 2019 focus as well as the 2025 focus. So with our focus now, it's no longer on accurate and appropriate use, but now we've shifted that use to efficient use. And remember, one of the big reasons for the change that the QCAA made was to enable these the ISMG to be more student-friendly language. So rather than accurate and appropriate now, we're focusing on efficient. So what is meant by efficient use of technology? Well, the Collins Dictionary defines efficiency as performing or functioning in the best possible manner with the least waste of time and effort. So in other words, we are picking the right technology and using it in the right way that wastes the least amount of time and the least amount of effort. We had a focus also in our 2019 syllabus for that superficial use. You'll notice that I've already mentioned this. We've now shifted to simplistic use because the word simple is much more student-friendly language than superficial. Okay, what do we mean by simplistic? What are we showing if we're going to hit in that bottom description range? Well, the Oxford Dictionary defines simplistic as treating complex issues and problems as if they were much simpler than they really are. So what this means is that we are using technology in a way that oversimplifies the problem that we're trying to solve. Now, this is going to become much more apparent when we look at some examples in a moment. So simplistic could mean simple things like skipping some key calculations. So for example, let's say we're doing a bivariate data task, which is usually the task that we choose in senior. Skipping some of those key things like a residual plot, or using Excel to calculate key things like means and standard deviations, that would be key parts of the assignment. And so if we didn't do those things in a technology form, then that would be a simplistic approach to our assignment. It could be things like typing our numbers into the spreadsheet instead of using the formula functions. Now, what I mean by this is, let's say you've got a column of numbers. Now, the quickest way to add, say, 10, 15 numbers is to press the sum function button. It looks like a little E, or like a lightning bolty sort of E. Now, that sum function there will add that whole column for us very quickly in 1 or 2 clicks. However, if we go and instead use Excel like a calculator and manually type the numbers in, equals this plus this plus this plus this, and then press enter, yes, we still achieve the same result, but remember, it's not done efficiently. It's not done with the least amount of time. It's multiple typings like we would use in a calculator. So that would be a simplistic use of Excel. If we had parts of a graph where we've missed key parts, for example, once again, bivariate data, adding on the trend line, adding on the least squared regression equation, adding on R or R squared to the actual graph, that would be missing some key parts of our Excel demonstration in our assignment, so that would be a simplistic approach. If you're not doing bivariate data, it could be just simply missing things like titles and scaling appropriately. Both syllabuses, or syllabi, have a reference to this inappropriate use of technology. So the 2019 syllabus as well as the 2025. Now, inappropriate means it's not suitable or it's not proper for the circumstances. So if you've used technology in a way that's not correct, or you've used the wrong technology for the situation, then this could fall under the inappropriate category. So things like putting the wrong type of graph into your assignment. So if you had to present your data with a scatter plot and instead you've inserted some column graphs, that's an inappropriate use of technology. Using an online calculator with the wrong parameters. Performing unnecessary calculations could also be inappropriate use as well. So for example, once again, using bivariate data, one of my favorite topics, let's say you've gone and you've calculated using technology the range, the mean, the median, the mode, the interquartile range. You've done all of those things that would be expected under a univariate data analysis for statistics, but you didn't actually perform the correct calculations, then that would be an inappropriate use of technology. You've used technology, you've probably done it accurately, but you haven't calculated the right things. Okay, there's lots of different kinds of technology. Our syllabus does not specify which technology you must use. However, your teachers will have their favourites and they'll probably train you to use their favourites for the situation. Some of the favourites are Microsoft Excel or Sheets if you've got an Apple device, and Desmos. These are two of our teachers' favourite technologies. You could also use a scientific or a graphics calculator. They are also forms of technology. And it's also important in your assignment to specify what technology you're using in which situations. There are also a large range and variety of online calculators out there. You've got online matrix calculators, online summary statistics calculators, online trigonometry calculators, and the list is endless. So these are types of calculators that are definitely valid to use in different situations. You definitely, though, need to make sure that if you've used an online source like that, that you actually reference that in your assignment. Also, you can use equation editor in Word to type up your assignment, although I don't think this is the kind of technology we're talking about in terms of efficiency. However, if you've done handwritten notes that extend multiple pages, these can't actually be scanned in to turn it in for plagiarism checks. So that could actually be an inappropriate use of technology because you haven't actually used the technology, which is equation editor. I've already mentioned that in the formulate section, you should be listing the technologies you're using and the purpose that they're going to serve. So if you use Excel to draw a graph, you should state that in the opening parts of your assignment that you will be using Excel to create graphs and even specify what kind of graphs you're going to be creating in your technology there. If you don't do it in the formulate section and then you're introducing something done with technology in the body of your assignment, that's your time to say, created using Desmos, the following graph presents this information. It could also be placed as a separate subheading in your formulate section, such as use of technology, and something that as you go and complete the assignment, you could keep updating that. But that's something very important. You need to make sure you return to that section at the beginning and keep updating it as you go. Don't start and say, I'll use Excel for this, and then later do some more Excel things and forget to update that section. Now here's an example from the General Maths syllabus from Queensland Curriculum Authority of an example of how they've talked about it using a subheading. So they've got this little heading, use of technology. Like I said, you don't have to have a separate subheading where you do this, but it should be talked about somewhere in your assignment. And having subheadings can be a good guide for you to remember not to forget any parts of what you're going to be doing. Now, we've already mentioned that outlining that in your formulate section could be just done simply as a paragraph. We just saw an example where it's done under a subheading, but here in the Math Methods syllabus, Queensland Curriculum Authority has done an exemplar, and they've simply done it as a paragraph outlining that they're going to use Excel and Desmos and what they're going to be doing it for, transformations, simultaneous equations, etc., considering measures, including the coefficient of correlation and the residual analysis. So once again, it could be done one way or the other. Now, different ways that you can present technology use in your assignment is to consider taking a snapshot of your formulas. And I have mentioned this in previous videos, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. So I've got this little section here where I've got a very small data set, and I want to show the formulas I've used to demonstrate to the teacher that I have used technology efficiently. So I've got a formula here where I've found the correlation, and I've found R squared by squaring this number here. Now, I want to be able to show these formulas in my assignment. So what I'm going to do is if I click on the formulas menu at the top of Excel and then come over here where it says show formulas and click that button, it's going to present the formulas in a way that I can take a snapshot and put that into the body of my assignment, not the appendix, because the appendix is not marked. Now, when I'm taking that snapshot, I should be careful to include these row numbers and the columns, the column labels, because you'll notice this is referencing B1 to F1. So here's B1 here, here's F1 here. So it's showing me, and the teacher can check that I've actually selected all of the right cells in my formula. And this one here is squaring the correlation to find R squared, the coefficient of determination. So I, as a teacher, can check this and go, yes, my student has used technology efficiently and correctly. So this is found in Excel formulas, show formulas. Now to turn that off, I simply click this button again and it goes back to regular numbers. One thing I do find students do instead of showing a snapshot is that they'll in Word type the formulas into Word. Is that an efficient use of technology? It takes longer to do than it does to take a snapshot from Excel. I would argue that's not efficient use of technology. So I think the best way to do that is actually to take that snapshot directly from Excel, place it in the body of your Word document so that your teacher can see directly what formulas you've used without retyping them a second time into Word. Now, something else that's to be aware of, some spreadsheets are very large. There are many rows and many columns. Sometimes they can extend down 100 rows and maybe 100 columns, even more if you needed to. And the issue is when you take a snapshot of all of that, it can take up a lot of space in your assignment. Efficient means you're not snapshotting every single row and every single column, just a sample of the initial rows and columns. So if you've got multiple columns and multiple rows that go on and on and on and on, you don't need to take a snapshot of every single one of those, just the first section with their headings, the rows and the column numbers, and just that little part as a sample. Now, if your teacher was expecting to see all of it, that could be something you could put in your appendix and reference it in the body of your assignment. But we really only need to see a sample in the body. It's also important as you're presenting work like graphs and tables and information that you've sourced off the internet, it's important to use labels to ensure information is presented well and well organized. That's going to hit one of your communicate criteria as well. So here's an example here. This snapshot here, I've used arrows to show what I'm talking about, but these little labels also help organize your work. If you are using a spreadsheet, it's a good idea to also use all the formulae available for all the calculations that are possible. So as I've mentioned earlier, using that sum function, you're making sure that you use technology like a spreadsheet for things like calculating correlation, means, standard deviations. I'm aware that they can be done on a calculator, but it's a lot harder to prove you did it on a calculator when you can't take snapshots from your calculator directly to your Word document. That's why spreadsheets are a wonderful idea. So we've talked about the sum function to add up large groups of numbers. That looks like this little button here. It's in the top menu in Excel. Multiplication in Excel is represented by the asterisk button, and division is represented by /. So that's something important to remember. Also remembering that when you want to type a formula into Excel, you simply need to press the equals button. And you can start typing words in there like standard deviation, and it will bring up a menu of all the possible formulas that you could use. So you can find also in Equation Editor, this menu here. I did mention it earlier in the video. It's one of my favorite discoveries as an adult. Alt button and equals at the same time brings this menu up. So you can do lots of wonderful things with equation editors. You can insert fractions. You can insert things with powers and also subscripts. So for example, if you're using a recurrence relation and you'll notice in the textbook you've got a big letter and then a little letter, well, you can actually do that with that subscript function here. You can do surds and things with powers and roots. You can even show things with the accent button. So for example, when we look at the mean is represented with an X with a bar over the top. That can be done with what's called an accent. And also you've got matrices here as well. There's also lots of symbols that you can use here, multiply, divide. That's got a down button, so you can scroll down and look at more there, such as degrees and some of your trigonometry symbols as well. This gives you the ability to add a big range of formulas into the body of your assignment without having to handwrite it. It also makes it much easier for your teacher to read. Once I said earlier as well, it's much better if it's not handwritten but is typed and scanned into your plagiarism checker, and that way your teacher has that assurance that your work is unique and your own. It also demonstrates that efficient use of technology because it is much quicker than writing it on a piece of paper, taking a photograph of it, emailing it to yourself and inserting it into the body of your report. So once again, it's demonstrating efficient use of technology. Now, presenting graphs in your PSMT, you can do hand-drawn ones, and you can also do ones drawn with technology. And our focus today is on the technology ones. Now, any expectations your teacher has of hand-drawn graphs is the same expectation for a technology drawn graph. So things like a meaningful title and axis titles, choosing the right type of graph for the topic that you're doing, and legends if they're relevant, which is usually mostly for categorical data. If you're doing bivariate data, ensuring that you insert that least squared regression line, it's called a trend line in Excel, and also making sure the equation is on there. If you're using Desmos, it's a good idea to include a screenshot of the viewing window so you can see domains and parameters. So this is the viewing window over here. It's got this little funny squiggle to represent the different particular graph that you've drawn. And if there's any domains and parameters, that will be in here as well. There are also many other tools and calculators online. I did mention some earlier. There are things like stem and leaf plot generators and box plot generators, which makes it a much more efficient way than drawing it by hand. If you use a particular website, make sure that you reference that in your use of technology section, or if you're not going with the use of technology section in Formulate, then make sure when you present the graph, the snapshot of the graph, that you actually put a reference there as to where you got that tool from. So here's some more examples now from students' work as well as QCAA exemplars of appropriate and accurate technology in the old syllabus, but this would be called efficient use of technology under the new syllabus. Now remember that these PSMTs were pulled together, these exemplars were pulled together in 2019 for the old syllabus, but they are still relevant for the new. You can see here what I've been talking about. We've got a heading for the graph, we've got the trend line equation on here as well as R squared, and we've got that trend line, the least squared regression line, plotted through the graph. So that is an efficient use of technology. You'll notice they've also got titles for the axes as well as appropriate scaling. So normally a graph would start at 0 in Excel. You can actually double click. If you double click on this axis here or this axis here, you can set minimums of where you want the data to start. So you could tell Excel, I want this to start at 145 and I want this axis, the y-axis, to start at 150. And that saves a lot of white space being used in your graph where you've got this white space here and then all the dots over here. So this is also efficient use of technology under appropriate scaling. Here's an example from the Math Methods syllabus. This is from the 2019 exemplars that they put out as well. You'll notice we were talking about the Desmos viewing window earlier with our domains and parameters in there. This has been photographed here and also our data set here as well as the graph. So we haven't just inserted the graph, we've also imported all of that necessary information, and that would be an efficient use of technology there. Once again, it's been appropriately scaled, and we've got a title on the graph as well. Notice it's underneath. They've put the title for the graph because Desmos doesn't automatically introduce titles for graphs. So they've had to type one in, but that's an efficient use of technology there. And that explains what this technology has been used for. Here's some examples of some formula snapshots. This is coming from the General Maths syllabus from 2019. And you'll notice here that they've got some of the calculations here, and they've also got a snapshot of those that they've done using show formulas in Excel. Now, this has only been given use of technology, not efficient use of technology. And the reason for that is that there were lots of parts of the budget that the student did not include in the body of their assignment. So there are lots of budget calculations, for example, that should be in between and that form a budget. So there's lots missing, and that's why it's only use of technology. Here's my fourth example. This is coming from a student now. Now, I did mention earlier that use of white space. We've got lots of white space in here. This can lead us to making inappropriate judgments about correlation. And so it's far better to actually get rid of all of this white space. What I'd be doing is I would be double clicking on that line there in Excel, and it would bring up a menu to the right hand side. I'd be selecting my minimum value for X axis as 10, and my minimum value for the Y axis is about 120. This will then spread the dots out so I can make a better judgment about the correlation. This is not an appropriate type of graph for bivariate data, which is what the student was studying. They've sorted it from A to Z, or from 1 to 100 or whatever, before they've actually gone and graphed it. So what you end up is with your data points, let's say the data was somebody's weight versus somebody's height. When you go and sort it, you've actually put someone's weight against somebody different's height, and the data is no longer belonging to one person. So that's an inappropriate use of technology. In my sixth example, we can see something as well. The student has graphed bivariate data as a column graph and a line graph. So this is the first data value here. This is the second data value. So they've chosen the wrong graph. It should have been a scatter plot. So do what you've been learning in class and demonstrate that in Excel, and you shouldn't go wrong. Okay, this person here has joined the dots on a scatter plot. Never should do that. That's an inappropriate use of the technology. That's all the examples we've got today. We've reached the very end. Thank you for staying with us. If you have any questions about something you saw in today's video, the place to contact us is mcclatchymaths@yahoo.com. Well, you've been watching McClatchy Maths. I hope you've enjoyed this video 6. Stay tuned for the upcoming videos where we'll unpack the rest of the PSMT ISMG. I'm Natalie McClatchy. Have a wonderful day.